Okay, so gosh, we have a week and a half left, even less, for you to finish this course. And that means you have a test due on Sunday and then the final due the next week with the project. Okay, so I wanted to, oh gosh, I have the wrong thing on here. So I just wanted to go through a few things with the test that might just to kind of remind you of a few details. Um, let's see. All right, so let's see if this works. Just remember that the complement of an event is just like the probability of an event plus the probability of the event not happening is equal to 1. All right. So just in this case, if the probability that the event E happens is 55.55, like 55% of the time E is going to happen, then the probability that it's not going to happen is just 1 minus that, 1 minus 0.55, all right? So sometimes you have to calculate what the probability of something happening is first, and then the probability that it doesn't happen is just 1 minus that, okay? A few more probability questions. Rolling a number less than 4 on an 8-sided die. All right, what's that probability? All right, so while we know the denominator is the size of the sample space, in this case there's 8 possibilities on an 8-sided die, and the probability of this event is less than 4. So that could happen if I roll a 1, 2, or 3. Right? So the probability of this, the numerator, is going to be 3. Okay, because there's 3 possibilities of this event. And I wanted to go through also cards. A lot of probability has to do with cards. So let's just remember some of the numbers here. First of all, there's 52 cards in a deck. There's 13 cards in each suit, like heart, club, spade. There's 13 of those. There's 4 of each card, right? There's 26 red cards and 26 black cards, all right? So these are the numbers you're going to use. Excuse me. So the probability that I get a club, well, that's one suit. There's 13 in each suit, so that's going to be 13 out of 52. What's the probability of getting a king? If I draw one card, let's say, out of 52. All right, that's just 1 out of 50. Or, well, there's 4 kings. Right, there's 4 kings, so that's 4 out of 52. What's the probability that I get a black card? Well, half the cards are black, right? 26. All right, so I just wanted to go through these numbers here because those are the ones that you need to know. Now, the multiplication rule, if you remember, says that for a sequence of events, I multiply probabilities. And sometimes the probabilities are dependent. Like, let's look at this one. What's the probability that I choose an 8, and then without replacing it, I choose a king? Let's see that. So the probability that I pick an 8, what's that? Well, there's 4 8s, right? There's 4 8s. Ace of hearts, ace of diamonds, clubs, and spades. There's 4 of them out of 52. So that's the probability that the first card out of 52 that I pick is an 8. And now I have to multiply that by the probability that I pick a king. So what's that? Well, since I don't put this card back, now instead of picking from a deck of 52, I'm going to have 1 less and pick from a deck that only has 51 cards left because I picked the 8 out of the first time. But I still have 4 kings. All right, so I would multiply those together to get the probability. All right, and let's just do this. What's the probability of picking 2 kings? 2 kings. All right, the first one would be, well, there's 4 kings out of 52. And the second one now, I would take 1 card out, not put it back, but I would now only have 3 kings left. right? So that number would be 3. So I think, make sure you know these numbers here. And, this is typical of a statistics course where you use dice and you use cards. The other thing I wanted to show you is, what's the difference between these two data sets? Let me see if I can let's look at these two data sets. They both have a normal distribution, right? These are both normal. They're bell-shaped, but this one's like a lot skinnier. What's the difference between these two? Well, the first thing is the mean on this one is 8, and the mean on this one is 9. So this one has a higher mean than that one, right? 9's greater than 8. It's centered on 9 instead of 8. But this one also, what's the other difference? Well, this has a bigger spread. The data is more varied. So the standard deviation of this one is greater than the standard deviation of this set, right? This one's, the data is stacked up on top of each other, whereas this one, it's more spread out. Okay. And the last thing, make sure you know how to use StatCrunch. Let me see. How can I do this? Okay. Go back. Remember, StatCrunch has 5 boxes, and you need to know how to use all of them. But in a problem where it says the percentile, what does that mean? The percentile means 20% of the data is to the left of the percentile. All right? So, let's say, the baby is in the 20th percentile, and the baby weighs, 5 pounds. That means 20% of the data of the babies are less than 5 pounds. Right? Oops. Okay. So the percentile is the percentage of data that's to the left of your data point. Okay. So in this case, for example, what's the z-score? I'm just going to use z-scores. Let's look at StatCrunch, right? The mean and standard deviation are going to be given, and you've got 3 boxes to play with here. If they give you a percentile, like in this case, you're going to put like 20%, which is 0.20, and the z-score that corresponds to 20% is minus 0.84. All right. Now, the mean and standard deviation for z is 0 and 1. But maybe they give you a specific problem like, what's the test, the 30th percentile of a test? Well, they have to give you the mean. Let's say the mean on the test was 75.1 and the standard deviation was, let's say, 6.7. And so these numbers they are going to have to give you, right? They have to give you those. And then they'll say, what score is the 30th percentile? That means to the left, right, to the left, where 30% of the data is to the left. So I'm going to choose this in that direction, and I'm going to put my percentage, which is in this last box here. So 71. 71.5 is the score where 30% of the other scores are to the left. They might ask you, what's the score that gives you the top 10%? That in that case, you would put the percentage here. But since they're saying the top, then you're going to have to use this part. So 10% of the students got above 83.6 or 83.7, okay? So, I think you really have to go through your homework problems and make sure you know how to use StatCrunch on the normal. Remember, this is the normal calculator. Let's see, I'll show you how to get that. Remember, stat calculator, normal. Oh, sorry. Let's do that again. Let's do that again. So it's stat calculator normal, right? Stat calculator normal. So that's how you get to normal calculator. Make sure you know how to use that. Look at your homework problems and go through those. And, let me know if you have some questions.